Welcome to Learn with Hack the Box, a unique YouTube series focused on fast-tracking your career path in either offensive or defensive cybersecurity. Whether you're an aspiring SOC analyst or pen tester, stay tuned for these exclusive tutorial-style videos from experienced cybersecurity professionals who will guide you with tips and tricks to get you going along the way. So by the end of this episode, we'll discover things like how to track down malicious files, how to correlate data in a timeline, or even shutting down a command and control. So whether you're new to the field or an experienced vet, this guide is going to get you a solid foundation to get you moving on the way. So to start things off, we're gonna get into Hack the Box's Sherlocks located on the main website. So as I mentioned in the second video, which if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. The Sherlocks are these really cool real-world activities that are created by Hack the Box for the blue team players. So what's neat about this is you actually get to leverage the toolkit, the labs that you create in your own environment using the real tools based off of real artifacts in these exercise environments. Now, with that being said, it is extremely important to emphasize, maybe foot stomp a little bit, that some of this activity could include actual malicious payloads. So by going through and digging to some of these intermediate to harder labs, these exercises, you may be exposing your environment to a true threat. So it's extremely important. They do come with the artifact as well as like a README document, shows you how to initially walk through the handling of these to be extremely careful. But it's heavily encouraged that you do use a virtual machine, a hypervisor when you're doing this activity. I would not recommend doing this on your host machine. You should be using a lab. Now, Hack the Box does not officially support cyber studies in this capacity, but we do have numerous videos on our channel that show you how to set up your own forensics lab. If you wanted to check it out, that is in the description down below. All right, so now that we have our lab set up, we are now on the Hack the Box main site. So on the left here, we're gonna see a few different options, but what we're looking for tonight is going to be the Sherlock's tab. So this is the blue team side of the house, our exercises for different stuff. And primarily, we're gonna see lots of the digital forensics items. We're gonna dig into BFT. So this is gonna allow us to get acquainted with the MFT forensics side of our analysis here. So we're gonna see some things like our artifacts listed here, the bft.zip. We're gonna download that. And then while we're doing that, we're gonna copy the passcode used to uncompress that artifact. So while it's going there in the background there, we are going to be presented with some tasks, some questions. So your typical CTF is more of a fictional event. It's being led through this thing, a little bit of hand holding, what have you. What's nice about these is it's a little bit more realistic in nature. Hey, we're looking for these particular things, you know, to aid us in our investigation. So now that we've copied down that file, we have our uncompressed item. We're gonna go ahead and actually dig into our sandbox lab. So I'm gonna minimize this here. And I'm using Flare VM tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and copy over our artifact here. And then if this works right off the rip, then we have our zip file right here. So let's go ahead and dig into that. Let's go ahead and uncompress this. Okay, pew. And then, what was it? We have hack the blue. Easy enough. We're going to dig into our stuff here, and we're now presented with an MFT file. So now that we're in our lab, we're going to be leveraging a tool called MFT ECMD. Now this is an Eric Zimmerman tool, the legendary forensics guy, and we're going to be using this to take our file and make it something a little bit more digestible. We're going to turn this into like a CSV, something we can actually, you know, use another tool to do some of our analysis with. So it's going to take a little bit of a convert here. So hang tight with me as we do this. We're going to open up a PowerShell and admin shell here. We're going to just make this a little bit larger to read so we can work along with that. And we are going to CD into our download folder because that's where I got it. We have our Eric Zimmerman tools, and I believe it's the Net 6. So once we have that, we are going to do the MFT ECMD. All right, so I'm going to launch it so you can kind of see what the actual example looks like. Now, what we have here is we're going to take the file that we had. Where's our good example here? Right here. So we're going to take our example, our file. We're going to then pass it through to a CSV conversion, and then we can then use that output for something down the road here. So let's go ahead and just take that. We're going to take the file that we were messing with here. We're going to copy the path to that. So let's use our BFT. That we're going to use a file handler here. Let me move this here so you can see a little bit better. We're going to then use our path to the file that we had, and you may notice that the MFT itself is being read as a variable there, and we're just going to escape that with a tick. And then we are going to pass that as a CSV. And then what do we have for our example here? So in our example, they're just showing us in that same directory. So let's do the same thing here. We're just going to paste our example there, and we're just going to move that last portion. So we're in that same directory, and we're going to do that CSV. Make sure everything looks good there. And then we're going to give it a name. We're just going to call this mft.csv. So we have basically taken it, we've converted it, and we're going to do our output here. Let it run its thing. It's saying it's reading the file. It's being read as an MFT. It could take a little bit of a second here to crunch, but once we have that here, you will notice we now have an additional CSV file. Now you can open this up in like Libre, Office. You can use Microsoft Excel. But what I'm going to actually do tonight is I'm going to take this. I'm going to run it through Timeline Explorer. So we have a little bit better of a visual here, and kind of see our holistic view on how this all works. All right, so we're going to dig into our applications here, and we're just going to pull up Timeline Explorer. So what you'll kind of find nowadays is that you do have some sort of like timeline analysis tool built into like EDR solutions or what have you. This was freeware that I got with the Flare VM package, and it works really well. But all we're doing is we're taking the output of our initial file, our CSV. A typical CSV is like an ugly amalgamated, comma separated value, just text files, right? And using things like your Excels, your what have you, this tool instance, it allows it just to be a little bit more visible and something we can actually filter on. Okay, so now we have this. We're going to do a quick open here. We have our CSV. And let's just go ahead, and while that's chugging along there, let's dig into the Sherlock page. So what the first task is actually asking of us is saying Simon Stark was targeted by attackers on February 13th. He downloaded a zip file from a link received from an email. What is the name of that zip file that he downloaded? So one thing that we can look at here, we have a user, Simon Stark, February 13th, a zip file from an email. And so it does not hurt. It's highly encouraged to actually take some notes when we're going through these. So we can just open up like a little file pattern here. We can say our user is Simon Stark. The date was February 13th. And then the file type was a .zip from an email. Okay, so just a little note taking. It could be something easy, rough, but something we can just have just something to refer back to. So we now have our CSV. I kind of blew it up here so you can see it on the screen. Hopefully it's a little bit visible. It's not obnoxious. And so the first thing we're looking for right off the rip is we want it to be a file extension of a .zip. So we're going to do a .zip in the top search bar here. And then we're going to fire that, and then I'm also going to filter on the extension itself. So give it a second while it's chugging along here. Doing its thing. All right, cool. And then it's kind of hard to see, but in the top right-hand corner of the extensions, we do have a filter option here. So we're going to dig into that. As you'll find when it comes to these types of tools, any sort of analysis tool, it's chugging along. It takes a second to kind of mow through these. All right, so we've now changed the extension here to just to have zips. And it might be a little bit hard to read here, so I'm gonna try to see if I can bring down the font size just a smidge. Let's bring it down to 18. There we go. And so right off the rip here, so we have just our .zips. We have 5 items here, and then we have some. So cape is odd on its own, but for the sake of the exercise, we're gonna ignore that. That's like a used in the analysis process. So it'd be extremely. If this was real world, I'd be really concerned by that. We're gonna take a second and look past that. We'll circle back around if we need to. But we do have some downloads. We have the stage. It looks like a date of some sort with a time frame. And then we also have the infamous invoice and invoices. We see those all the time. And so I'm gonna lead with just the big ugly one right off the rip, just as a starter. And then because this is inside of my virtual machine, I am going to annotate this offline on my host machine, so that way I can plug it into that thing here. So let's go ahead and try that really quick. Let's see if that is the one. So we have a name.extension for this one. We're going to try the stage that with the zip. And voila, we got it. We got our first one. Rock and roll. All right, so let's dig back in there. So, okay, so the second one, it looks like we can actually build off of the first one here. So it says, examine the zone identifier contents from your initial downloaded zip. The field reveals the host URL from where the file was downloaded, serving as a valuable indicator of compromise, these IOCs. In our investigation and analysis, what is the full host URL from where the zip file was downloaded? So this actually was kind of covered in one of the Hack the Box Academies. I believe it was the intro to the digital forensics module. But more or less what we're going to be doing is we're going to extrapolate the URL from the file that was downloaded. So when you download a file through a browser, typically speaking, there is a associated alternate data stream, ADS. It's associated to the file itself. Think like metadata, where it's saying, hey, here's the file, and then here's information about that file, where it came from, what was, little things associated to it. So let's go ahead and dig back into our VM. And what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at the stage .zip, but we kind of want to open it up a little bit. Because right now we're filtering off of the zip, and I believe it said it was wanting us to find the based off of the zone identifier. So the contents in that field should house the host URL. So let's go back in there. Let's see if we can clean this up a little bit. And then while that is crunching, we're going to click into the extension. So we have that, clear our filters there. And again, you just have to be patient with this kind of stuff. We're doing the indexing, the parsing, while also virtualized inside this box. So sometimes it's not the most, I think I allocated like 4 gigs at 2 processors here. So I wasn't exactly the most gracious with that. Okay, so we've opened that back up a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go for that stage, just because it was unique on its own. So we're just going to do like a string search and see if we can find that stage file. So I'm going to let this crunch for a second. Okay, so we got it there, and then we're going to be looking for our extensions. There it is, right there. Cool. So we're just gonna let's filter it out. Why not? We're here. So let's go ahead and filter it down to that identifier extension type. So we're gonna close that up here, and then again, it's kind of hard because I'm trying to demonstrate this on a screen, so I have the size blown up pretty large. Let's see if I can bring it down just a smidge and keep it readable here on YouTube. Is that still readable? Okay, so now that size looks pretty decent. We're looking for our zone identifier. So let's scroll across here in our fields. And again, if you're using this on your machine and it's not blown up this large, it might be a little bit easier to go through. Okay, rock and roll. Okay, cool. So here we have in our zone ID, our identifier field, we do have here what look like some URLs. And then we are looking for a refer URL, a host URL, a refer URL. So, okay, so it's kind of unanimous at this point. So we have right here, we have this monstrous value here. I believe our zone ID URL. And if we double click into this, you can see a little bit better. Cool. We're just gonna copy this part right here. So this is all it's asking for. So I can get this over to my host, where you can try to submit this. Cool, rock and roll. Okay, so that's working there. Cool, let's try it out. So let's try over here. And then make sure we have the right piece there, and let's try it out. Boom, there we go, another one. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes for me, it's just getting the stuff from my my lab onto my host machine there and back. It's always this hiccup, this connection going on there. But rock on. Okay, cool. Woo. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. The next one here is asking, it's saying, what is the full path and name of the malicious file that was executing the malicious code and connected to a C2 server? Now, this is actually the first one that we have that has this hint option here. And so we're gonna go ahead and click into that. I mean, why not? We have the resources. We should utilize everything that are at our disposal here. So this one says, task 3 hint, identify any suspicious file related to the initially downloaded zip file. Look for MFT records with suspicious extensions and timestamps around the zip downloaded time. Now, it mentions here suspicious extensions. It's kind of subjective in nature, and then timestamps. And if I'm actually not mistaken, if I read ahead a little bit here, it also, for task number 4, it says analyze the timestamp for the previously identified file. So we actually might be able to get a little, double action going on here. So let's dig back into our lab. Let's pull that back up here. And we're going to open it back up. So what we were looking at before, let's get back in there. Let's remove some of our filters. Let's just get back to base here. So let's just clear out our filters at the bottom. All right, so we cleared out the filters down there, and we kept stage. Now, I did that just because, again, stage is very unique in this particular instance. If you wanted to open it back up, just kind of go broad and then dig back into it. But that was one of the original zips that we were looking for at the beginning here. And honestly, just based off of what we're looking for, I'm just gonna be scrolling through here and getting some lay of the land. And we don't have a whole lot of lines here. I think we have about 70 lines. And one that jumped out to me, it was kind of suspicious in nature right off the rip, was we have some DLLs in here, but we also have a bat file. Now, batch files are commonly used in Windows for executing kind of like a payload kind of a thing. So that was one of the, I think it was the initial 4 at the very beginning of this exercise. It was the it was like cape, which was again in nature that's very suspicious, but we're gonna ignore that for the time being. And then we also had the other 3 items. So this was one of the 3, if I do recall correctly. And then I believe it asked specifically in the question, it said right here, find the full path. So we're looking for the absolute path here with our drive and everything. So let's dig back in there one more time and see if we can find that path. So we have our bat file here. Oh, lost it. And then this is our parent path. So let's see if we can open this up a little bit. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then just to make sure we have our bases covered, Okay, that's what we're working with here. All right, so we're gonna dig into that. So that's our file path. We are just gonna double click into this, gives us our whole thing. Control A, we're gonna copy that over here. And then where is my page here for submission? So we are going to paste that in here. And then we're gonna take that path plus the name of the actual file in question. So that was there, and then we are going to, and it was invoice.bat. This is the actual file name itself, plus the parent path. So we're gonna copy that there one more time. And then we're just gonna throw that in there. Okay, so we have that, and then I might have to change the drive at the very beginning there. Okay, as expected, and then let's throw a Charlie in there. Yeah! All right, cool. And then again, as I mentioned, we're looking for a timestamp for the created 0x30. So let's go back in there really quick. This is the one that we have here, and then do we have a timestamp over here? No, let's go over here. So it's like right here. I think this is our timestamp for when that was created. And then let's go back in there really quick. And let's see. Too easy, too easy. That's what I'm talking about, too, right there. Awesome. All right. So now let's scroll down a little bit here. Moving along here, we're almost finished with our challenges. So task 5 is saying, finding the hex offset of an MFT record is beneficial in many investigative scenarios. Find the hex offset of the stager file from question 3. So this is in reference to that bat file that we had from earlier. And this one also has a hint, so we'll dig into that one. Task 5 hint says, in MFT records, find the entry number value from the file in question. Multiply that number by 1024 since that's the size of each record. The result of the offset in decimal, and then convert that into hex to find your answer. All right, cool. Okay, so we're going to have to dig back into that timeline explorer, see if we can find one of those values, and then we'll break out like calculator or something. Okay, so let's dig back into my lab here. And then this was the entry for that bat file. So we're just gonna scoot along here and see if we can find that entry number. Okay, so it's right here. So we have, let me open it up here. So we have this 23,436. So we're gonna copy that. And then we're just gonna bring it over our trusty calculator app. So we're gonna take that number, and we're gonna multiply that by, they said what, 1024. So we're gonna get 23, was it 1024? Okay, so okay, cool. So okay, so it's 23,000 or 23,998,464. Now we're gonna just pull over some sort of converter from online, because this will do it for us. This is good enough. And then we are going to take this big number here. If I can get my mouse to work. We're going to paste it in here, and then we want to remove those commas because I believe that will mess it up. So we're going to take that, we're going to convert it, and we are now with hexadecimal value 16 echo 3000. So we're going to copy that real quick. Let's go back into our challenge here, and it looks like we have two smallers there. Okay, so we're just gonna paste that in there as a plain text, and well, that was weird. Let's try to paste that in there again without nuking hack the box. So there it is. Okay, that was really weird. I don't know why it kicked me out, but easy enough. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next one here, our last one. So each MFT record is 1024 bytes in size. If a file on disk is smaller than 1024 bytes, then it can be stored directly in MFT file itself. These are called MFT resident files. During Windows file system investigations, it's crucial to look at any malicious suspicious files that may be in the resident of MFT. This way we can find contents of malicious files and scripts. Find the contents of the malicious stager identified in question 3, our bat file, to answer with the C2 IP and port. Okay, rock on. Let's dig in there again. Let's get Time Explorer back open there and let's close out of our stuff. So we got that. I don't think we need this anymore. So we'll just minimize that for the time being. Clear this out. Oops, we've been here for a minute. All right, so then let's dig into our hex editor. So I'm using X. Cool there. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the original file. So not the CSV itself, but rather the original like file. So we have that one there. We're gonna open that up. And you can kind of see it's kind of like a discombobulated mess here. I think that's where it's kind of important to have that offset. So we're gonna dig into where it says search, go to, and then we're gonna place our 16, was it echo 3000. So that's gonna take us directly to our line over here towards the bottom here. So I'll see if I can scroll up here. If I can, oh, can't zoom in. All right, so we're gonna try my best to walk through this as best as I can here. So, excuse me. So we're looking at more or less the offset here on the left. That's the provided file that we were given. We did our conversion on. And that takes us to our file header here. And so we can actually see the contents of the decoded text on the right column here. And as we dig a little bit further down into it, we'll actually see it's just like a PowerShell script. So it looks like PowerShell is doing some sort of bypass. It's reaching out for objects here. And we're seeing a bunch of activity go on here. And then lo and behold, we actually are gonna have our IP address with our colon and protocol. So I'm reading here that we have this IP address, which is then downloading PowerShell into looks like a base 64, and we have some goodies tucked into that. But we have an IP address of a protocol. So I have 43.204.110.203 colon 6666. So let's just go ahead and copy that. And let's go back into Hack the Box and see if this is our final flag. So we have 4 octets and our stuff here. Oh, is that it? Is that all caught up in there? And we did it. All right, we have successfully finished our first Sherlocks. Now, BFT is one of the Sherlock boxes included in the VIP subscription plan that you can get through hackthebox.com. It's really important to realize that you just walked through the 7 steps of incident response. You may have not noticed it, but we want to take a second, kind of soak that in and elaborate as to what we just performed today, because this is a very important part of the whole process. Now, if you want to take your hacking adventure to the next level, you're going to want to watch this video right here, where we discuss a modern day incident response framework. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a good one.